Okay, so if you're a manager, you've probably felt this tension, right? You want to give your team crystal clear direction, but you absolutely do not want to become a micromanager. And this brings us to the pretty controversial task list. But today, we're going to completely flip the script on how you see them.
Let's just dive right into this because this is a real fear. It's totally valid. So many of us hear task list and we immediately think of being overly controlling. And look, nobody wants to be that boss, right? The one breathing down everyone's neck. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? The truth is, a good task list isn't about controlling people at all. It's actually about setting them free to do their absolute best work. And that's the powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea we're going to unpack right now.
So, to get to that truth, we first have to tear down a really powerful misconception. Let's call it the task list myth. Okay, think about the two worlds this slide shows. On one side, without any clear tasks, it's just chaos. People are kind of guessing what the priorities are, deadlines start slipping because no one's really sure who owns what, and you, the manager, feel like you're constantly chasing people for updates. It's just stressful for everyone. But on the other side, with a clear list, the expectations are out in the open, priorities are aligned, everyone knows what their job is. It's not restrictive, it's just stable.
So, if that chaos is the myth, then what's the reality? Well, it's what we can call a liberating truth.
First, we gotta redefine what we even mean by autonomy. See, it isn't just chaos or letting people figure everything out on their own with no guidance. Real autonomy is having the freedom to make your own decisions, but within clear boundaries. Without those boundaries, you don't actually get freedom. You just get a ton of confusion. And this, right here, this is the main event. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. Clarity doesn't kill autonomy. It creates it. Okay, so how does this actually work, in the real world? Let's break down the mechanics of how clarity really builds autonomy. This is such a perfect practical example. A vague instruction like manage client communication. I mean, that's just a recipe for anxiety, right? What does that even mean? But then look at the other side. It's broken down into 3 concrete things you can actually own. Reply to emails in 24 hours, send updates every Friday, and escalate big issues by the end of the day. All of a sudden, your team member doesn't have to ask for permission for every little thing. They know exactly what success looks like. Because when you leave things all vague and fuzzy, this is what happens. Ambiguity absolutely kills momentum. People end up spending more energy trying to figure out what to do than actually doing it. But the second you replace that ambiguity with real structure, something really powerful starts to happen. That clarity, it starts to breed confidence. And that confidence, it leads directly to the one behavior that every single manager on the planet wants to see: people taking initiative. They don't just sit around and wait to be told what to do. They start anticipating the next steps because they're standing on solid ground. This also busts another huge myth, the idea that systems and processes somehow limit creativity. It's actually the exact opposite. When your team doesn't have to waste all their brain power just figuring out the routine, basic stuff, they free up all that mental energy for the good stuff: problem solving, innovation, making things better. The system actually enables creativity. All right, so let's say you're on board with the why, but how do you actually do this? Let's get into the practical side of how to build great lists that empower your team, not control them. It really boils down to 4 simple but super powerful ideas. First, you start with the why. You connect every task to a bigger purpose. Then, you make sure it's specific to that person's role. Third, you gotta keep it alive by reviewing it all the time. And finally, and this is so key, you use the list as a coaching tool. It becomes the starting point for really great conversations in your one-on-ones. Let's zoom in on that first point about focusing on the why. So instead of just writing "send weekly report," you add the purpose. Send weekly report so the team can track campaign ROI. Bam! Now the task isn't just a chore, it has meaning. And that gives the person doing it a real sense of ownership and importance. So what happens when you actually put all of this into practice? Let's talk about the ultimate payoff. When you get right down to it, this is all about one thing: delegation. If you want to empower your team and honestly scale yourself as a leader, you have to get good at delegating. But here's the catch. You literally can't delegate what you haven't documented. Task lists are that bridge. They let you hand off work without also handing off a bunch of confusion. And this is the vision it creates for your team. A workplace with way less guesswork and a whole lot more innovation. Time gets managed better, collaboration just gets easier, and maybe most importantly, your team members can truly own their work and even start to improve it because they finally understand it completely. And this just brings it all home. This is the single most important idea to take away from all of this. When the what is clear, your team can finally focus on the how. And that's the whole goal. You define the destination and you empower them to find the best, most creative way to get there. So we'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Are you giving your team the clarity they need to truly be free and to perform at their absolute best? Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about.